You were able to be seen.
Yes.
Now
Hi.
we can hear you too.
Yeah, it's good.
Wonderful. So Shirley's going to talk today a little bit about the power of presence, especially when working with an individual who has dementia. So welcome, Shirley, and
Thank
whatever you
you.
want to say to the group about your position and yourself, feel free
Hey.
to. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I have been at Monroe Clinic since February, but before that, I worked with the Grace Hospice for about 6 years, and I was also working at UW Hospital. And in the community where I live, which is Sauk Prairie, I've worked a great deal with elderly citizens there, and some who have dementia, many of them don't. But my most personal experience of this is that my mother has advanced dementia, and I've been traveling this road with her for about 10, 11 years. And so I wanted to just share some of the ways I've learned over these years of how to be present with her, and how that's changed based on how she's doing. And I want to start out with something that has guided me on this journey that I think is very important. And that is, it was a conference I went to years ago on spirituality and dementia. And the person said, regardless of what is happening in a person's body, mind, spirit, they will always know, the spirit will know kindness and caring and love. And to really hang on to that, because even when it seems like there's nothing that you can do, even if they don't seem to know who you are, they will recognize that kindness and caring, and um, that has guided me. And I would go a step further, because I think the spiritual world is very so beyond our mystery. And in the years I was working with hospice and was with a lot of people at the end of life, I believe that there really are things that go on that we can't even imagine or know. So they may be things we cannot prove, but I would always want to err on trusting that they're true. And one of them, I believe, is that a person will know you even if they can't express to you that they know you. So my mom doesn't really know who I am 99% of the time, but out of the blue, she'll introduce me to someone saying, "This is my daughter, Shirley." And then it goes right back to her not knowing me. I'm not even sure that she knows anymore that she's a mom, because she doesn't respond when I call her mom, but she'll respond when I call her Dorothy. So, but I know, because she carried me for 9 months and she raised me and knows me through and through. I have no doubt that she knows who I am, even though she can't express that. That I don't think you're married to someone for 50 years, or that you raise them and you don't know their voice, their presence, their scent, whatever, their touch. So I have to trust that, even though it seems like she doesn't know. Um, and I have to just tell you, I'm going to look at my phone every once in a while, because I just minutes ago got a message that she's not doing very well right now. So I'm kind of waiting on word from her nurse about more about that, and if I should be going. But I won't go in the middle of my presentation now, so don't worry. So I just wanted to start with that piece of that the spirit knows. So what I have found in terms of being present to my mom over the years, and I've been able to spend a lot of time with her. I am single. I'm the youngest child in the family, and I was most available to be with her and my dad in their elder years. I should mention my mom is 99. She's going to be 100 in March, and my dad died about 13 years ago, which was 2007. But since we're in an election right now. I'll start my story with 2012 when President Obama was inaugurated. For some reason, I had the day off of work, and my mom invited me to come over and watch the inauguration with her. And so I did. I said, yeah, I'll do that. That'll be fun. Now, my parents were lifelong Republicans, and all of a sudden she was very excited about Obama being in office. So I come over to watch the inauguration with her, and she says, let's have some wine. And I was like, wow, it's like 10:30 in the morning, but okay. So we just, I found myself companioning her and being, just joining her for fun things. We had kind of a ritual of Monday nights. I'd come over for frozen pizza, and we would watch Dancing with the Stars and The Bachelor, Bachelorette, and just sort of just relaxed with that. And she started like not being so happy with those shows after a while. She didn't like the outfits on Dancing with the Stars. She didn't think it was really dancing. She didn't like the way they kissed on The Bachelorette. She'd always say, who kisses like that? Dad and I never kissed like that. And so I thought, so after a while, we kind of switched to watching like movies, Hallmark movies, etc. And I started realizing that she wasn't following the plot line of those, and I could tell this was for many years, she had that strong awareness that her mind was changing, that she wasn't remembering, she wasn't following. And this was very, very distressing to her. And I was trying to, in my presence to her, to help her to not be so distressed. So I sort of just said, maybe instead of watching TV, why don't we play Scrabble? She's a great Scrabble player, really up until only about 3-4 years ago. Not just good words, but very strategic. She just always would know when I was going to lay down a word, and man, she could block it. So we played a lot of Scrabble together, and she had a good friend, Ruth, who would take her over to her house on Monday nights or Tuesday nights and play Scrabble, have dinner. And as my mom's dementia got a little bit worse, she started saying things, Ruth started saying things that definitely led us to believe that it was a little too much for her to come and pick her up and take her. And at this time, my mom lived in assisted living. So she and my dad had lived in a complex where they were in an independent apartment for seniors. And my mom wound up moving to assisted living when we started seeing signs that maybe she wasn't safe living by herself. So I started going to Ruth's house with my mom to play Scrabble. And this went on for a number of years, and my sister joined us sometimes. And one day I went to visit her at her assisted living, and she was playing Scrabble with another resident there. And I walked up to kind of greet them. And I noticed that they both had quite a few words on the Scrabble board, none of which were connecting with the others. They were just words scattered on the board. And I said, oh, well, that's an interesting way to play Scrabble. And we started seeing her putting down words that weren't words. And rather than correct her, we sort of just let her, she was kind of aware, because she would say to us right away, that's a word, right? That's a word. And we'd just say, yes, that's fine. That's a word. And we'd give her the points. But one night she took some of the little wheat thins that Ruth had put out and started setting them up on that little thing that holds the tiles. And she tried to eat a tile. And that was one of those moments where you're like, maybe we can't do this anymore. And so along the way, there were a lot of recognizing something's changed, making a decision to maybe leave that behind and move on to another way of being present and being with her. And that was one where we said, maybe Scrabble's not what we're going to do now. And at that point, I think I started doing more with her, taking her for rides, although we'd always done that, but spending more time with her just in her, where she lived. And she moved into the memory care facility. And that was a good move. She wasn't really aware because it was a new building that had been built. So she thought she was just getting a new room, which was very convenient for us. It's a small place in Prairie du Sac, wonderful staff. None of us were in a position to take her into our home. So it's allowed us to really still be her children rather than taking care of her 24/7. So I spent more time there, looking at photo albums, listening to music, going for walks in the hall, taking her out when possible for a ride. She just loved to go for a ride in the country and look at the beauty, maybe taking her out for lunch. And when we couldn't go out for meals anymore because it was too stressful for her, I would join her for meals at her place or bring some dishes that she would make. Um, and and just sit with her, watch TV with her. Not that she was really watching, but often she'll fall asleep. So I might just sit with her and hold her hand and just be with her. And I'm very comfortable with that kind of silence. So I didn't need for her to be awake. I didn't need for us to be talking, but just to be with her, I knew was comforting to her. And over time, I came to realize that this is my role now. The big shift that has happened over time is from becoming a companion and I would say friend as well as a daughter to becoming someone who is a joy bringer, a comforter, a reassurer, a calm presence and bringing her those things. So whenever I could think of a way to bring just a little bit of joy to her day, and she's always been a very positive person, a very grateful person, and it was easy to bring joy to her because she always looks on the right side, on the bright sides of things. So we shared some of those activities. I would go to her activities at the facility if they were playing games when I happened to be visiting. Instead of taking her out to visit with her one-on-one, I'd sit down and play these games with her. My mom has always been kind of competitive when it comes to game playing, so it was fun to watch her. We might look at some things on their computer screen, whether it be nature scenes or animals or things like that. I have a little dog I would bring. And in fact, just recently, we were able to visit outside at her facility. And I brought my little dog, Penny, who would just keep kind of walking up to my mom. And my mom was just very engaged with petting her and talking to her. And it was just wonderful to see that. COVID made a big difference. We went several months without being able to visit. And because of her advanced dementia, talking on the phone wasn't a possibility, and doing like FaceTime just was too confusing to her. None of us wanted to cause any stress for her. So we just sort of let go of visits until they started doing outdoor visits in about July. Fortunately, now that it's gotten colder, they are allowing visits indoors in kind of an out of the way place. But it's been hard to have 45 minutes once a week to visit with her 6 feet away and not be able to hug her or, sit next to her. But I'm grateful that we can do that. Over this course of time, her hearing failed quite a bit, and she had worn hearing aids and lost them once. We don't know where. We replaced them. She lost them again, and we decided not to replace them. But we started using one of those pocket talkers. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but they're like a little miracle. She wears a headset, and connected to a wire is a little box with a microphone that we talk into. So it's an amplifier, but it works amazingly. So that, I was finding myself not only answering questions multiple times in a conversation, but having to shout them to the point where I just thought, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to lose it. So the pocket talker was amazing because she could hear just great, and just was able to continue having some nice conversations with her. So now, yesterday I visited with her, and we talked for a little bit, and much of her talking now is what we used to call in a Grace word salad. You may have heard that term before, and it's a lot of words coming out that don't make any sense. But every once in a while, there's a sentence or a phrase that does make sense. So I find myself just very intently listening and watching to her intonation, her body language, her mood, so that I can maybe respond accurately to what she's saying. And if I do pick out something, like one day she was talking, I could tell she was talking about her parents and siblings who are all deceased now. And just, she must have been telling some kind of story about them. And when she was done, I said, "They're really good people, aren't they?" And she said, "Yes." And she paused, and then she said, "They try really hard." And this was such a true blue um, virtue of my mother's, that she has always just tried to see the best in people. And so I find myself grasping at those little bits of her that show themselves here and there. But she loves to talk, and I know that what I'm able to do to be present to her is to listen and to give her that dignity that she can be listened to. And whether I can understand it or not doesn't really matter to me. What matters is that I'm there with her and I'm listening, and I'm trying to show her that what she's saying is important. So communication changed over those 10 years. Um, Sometimes it was acknowledging that when she would say, "This is so frightening, I'm losing my mind," and not to be able to say, it's okay, to be able to say, "That must be really scary," to just be able to acknowledge that with her and not try to fix it for her. Um, Sometimes now when she's sleeping during our visits, I will still, I learned from hospice that hearing is the last sense that a person loses. And so sometimes I sit in quiet with her, but sometimes I'll sing a song, or I usually try to pray with her. She's a very devout Catholic. And so I try to say an Our Father and a Hail Mary. It's said with people, and this is my experience with dementia, that some of those things come back, whether it's songs, prayers, and she always does, she always prays them with me. So we might do that. I might tell her stories that illustrate qualities of her that I want to lift up as a mother, as a person. Avoiding words like remember, remember when, as was spoken about. I try to be calm. I try to slow down with her. And just again, I keep thinking joy, reassurance, comfort. What are the things that are most important to her? Um, and not correcting, which I believe was mentioned too. So yesterday, my mom was talking about, she turned around, she said, "Well, where are they?" And I said, "Who?" She said, "Well, my mother and her family again, who she may very well be seeing." And I said, "I don't know." I said, "Well, she's very busy, so maybe she's off doing a task. I'm sure she'll be back." And that was fine. And then we moved on. Um, and one of the most beautiful things I take with me is one day when she was kind of sleeping, and I sang some hymns to her, I was talking to her, I was praying. And when she at one point I said, "Did you like that, Dorothy?" After I sang a song, it was How Great Thou Art, I think. And she just smiled, she said, "Yes." And she looked at me, she said, "I heard everything." So that gives me hope that the way we are present to people, um, it does get through. It does get through to them. And something I found recently that also really helped me through the coronavirus and not being able to be with her, or even now not being able to be with her much, is an article that I read on loving from a distance. And what this writer said, and she said several times throughout the article, "I cannot prove this to you, but here is what I'm seeing and experiencing and what I believe from the work I do." And she talked about and again, if you believe in kind of this mystery of the spiritual world, that even if we cannot be present physically with a person, we can love them from a distance in a way that reaches them. So whether that's, and she suggested even setting up a spot in your home, maybe with the person's photo or something that was precious to them, and just talk to them the way you would talk to them if you were right next to them, or just sending love and sending affirmation and trusting that it will get through, that it will reach them. Sorry, I'm thinking about what's going on. I think that's about mostly what I wanted to say, was that to trust that however you are present is okay, and that they will take that in. So I'll open up for questions.
Oh, Shirley. Our heart goes out to you right now, and we really so appreciate still sharing your story, even in the middle of not knowing what's going on. So,
Thank you.
in the comment section, Wind Prairie wanted to let you know that they're thinking of you and your family at this time and
Thank you.
comfort through this difficult journey. I want you to find peace and comfort in your memories. And
Yeah.
they thank you for taking time out of your day today to share.
Thank you.
So, really, Shirley, all of our prayers are with you.
I know. Thanks.
We, it's such a blessing that you were able to share with us today, and thank you so much. And we understand if you need to get going.
If there are questions, I'm going to leave when this at 11:30 when this is done. So I still can be here for a few minutes. Or if there are suggestions, if something that I said resonated with you or made you think of another way that you have been present to people.
Yeah. Anybody have any suggestions or anything, they can feel free to put something in the chat. And I know Pam was commenting, if people had read in the chat, that really it's just being there with the person and, um, you know, sharing your voice, your stories, pictures. A lot of times we just say, keep talking.
Yeah.
So they can't talk to us or we can't understand what they're trying to tell us. Just keep talking because that heart connection is so strong.
Yeah.
So incredibly strong.
And Shirley, I love Shirley's idea of that we can send blessings or thoughts towards people, even, when we're not seeing them or talking to them over the phone, but just that sense that you're sending something out and knowing that it goes there, just like a prayer or a meditation, anything.
Yeah. I do that a lot when I'm driving. I have an hour or so commute every day back and forth. So I do some of that talking from the car. And, if I can find a way to share that article, maybe just to send it to you, Tina, if you want to send it out to people. It looks like it might have been this person's a graduate dissertation or something. And it's not super scientific, but it's a paper that she wrote. But it just really struck me that this is not the worst thing in the world that I'm separated from her, that I can still send this to her.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's great, too, right now, because so many families are struggling and hurting, not loved ones in facilities.
Yeah.
Such limited contact.
Yeah.
Right now.
Right.
Yeah. It's hard on everybody, but we do have to send them all good thoughts. And
yeah.
Someone put in that they haven't visited their mom since March 12th.
Yeah.
Sends a letter at least once a week. Her mom does read them over and over. They FaceTime twice a week, which works well for them.
Yeah.
And they have an opportunity then to share pictures on my daily walks.
Yeah.
So it's, a nice opportunity to works for some, and the facilities really have been working so hard, to try and make this work with their limited staffing and resources right now. I'm just kind of, let's see.
Yeah. Trying to think if
Love
there's
that you
any.
said that we can send love from afar. I'm experiencing that with a very special 90-year-old aunt. God bless you and your mom.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think just sending pictures out, too, if you can mail things and that the staff will share with them.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Sending
love the idea
cards.
of a letter and pictures, and because I think staff is very happy to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too, because they know that they're isolated. So I think it brings some warmth and joy to what the staff are doing as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is tough on everybody. So,
Yeah.
specific area that you can look at a picture and talk with this person, maybe a few pictures of a few people, just let them know I'm thinking of them.
Right.
Mhm.
Really appreciating your suggestion, Shirley. Of just trying to stay in touch, even when we can't personally be in touch with them. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.